What's up, sports fans, and welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. I hope everybody had a great, or as I used on Wednesday, moving week. But either way, it's Friday. We have a great weekend to look forward to, and we're going to hop right to it, kicking off with the NFL per usual. We are now down to 97 days until kickoff, and we actually had the pleasure of hopping on a press conference call with Bucs head coach Bruce Arians. All right, guys, I've got to admit something for a second here. Bruce Arians has to be one of my favorite coaches, non-biasly, of course, not just because he's the head coach of the Bucs, which is my team, but it's his style, it's his swag, it's how he carries himself, it's how he conducts himself, it's how he speaks not only about his players but about his staff. This dude is like, if I was a player, this is who I'd want to play for, like beginning my career, end my career, let's just call it. He's such a player's coach, and not just the aspect of everything that's going on in the world right now, but it's just, we saw how he conducted himself when it came to all the Winston conversation this past fall. He never tried to throw him under the bus. He never tried to even hint at anything that was going on. A lot of us had no clue aside from our own assumptions of what was going to take place in that locker room or between Arians and Winston. And as a head coach, he still took that opportunity with Winston, even when he knew he was no longer going to have him continue with the Bucs, to train him up, to teach him things so that he could carry that with him throughout his career. That is the content of character of somebody who has not only will have a foothold in the football world for the rest of his life, but that's a Hall of Fame coach in my book. So I had to get that off my chest and let you guys know that I just have so much respect for Coach Arians, and it's always a pleasure when we get an opportunity to talk with him. So yesterday, we got to hop on a press conference call with him because, of course, we're still doing the Zoom live, regardless of phase 2 of COVID-19 and quarantine and everything taking place. And of course, the call had to open up asking Coach Arians, his thoughts of everything that's taking place in the world right now. And, how does the team address this? The bottom line for Coach Arians is that we can no longer be silent, and we cannot go back to silence. We have to carry off this momentum, of course, peacefully, but he even went as far to address the fact that sometimes people get involved or riled up, or, their hearts are out there. And then once a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, it all dies down. So Arians was saying, it can't die down. This is something we have to continue the momentum of. This is something that we have to continue to speak out on. And the highlight, as many of us are saying, is that you're seeing a lot more new faces. You're hearing a lot of new voices, and that is a sign of enthusiastic change. So the bottom line for Arians was, we cannot be silent. And he even went as far to say, he started educating himself and joining some groups. He joined campaign.org. And then he even touched on the fact that something else near and dear to his heart, aside from ending racism in this country, is that child abuse is more profound and more out there than people know of it. And he wants people to take the time to do the research and make sure that we start handling that situation as well. So if you guys want to know something near and dear to Coach Arians' heart, it's, making sure that child abuse doesn't continue on in this world. And he is standing firm in the fact that racism needs to end in this country as well. Now, as for how the team addresses these kind of situations, he said, look, there's a lot of media things that have such a magnitude to them, and we always try to address it as a team. Usually we get together and have a team meeting face-to-face so you can hear each other's hearts, so each player can speak on the matter and, inform each other, feed off of each other, learn together, grow together. And I love that about him. I love that that is his approach to any kind of media situation that has such heavy weight to it. So right now, he said, obviously, they're going to have to do a Zoom call for now. They already started meeting up and discussing everything that's taking place so that the players can just, pour out their hearts and hear each other. Because at the end of the day, sports is probably it's going to be the best platform, in my opinion, not just because I love sports and I work in sports, but it's going to be the best platform to really start creating some momentum and some real change out there. Because since eons ago, people from different backgrounds, cultures, and races have had to stand side by side on a field, a pitch, a court, whatever you want to call it, and fight for one another out there if they wanted any real result. They have had to deal with putting their differences aside long before most people that just have an everyday life or, normal day-to-day life. So because they have had to work within a quote unquote discomfort and push past certain boundaries and limitations and create these bonds and friendships and brotherhoods or sisterhoods amongst somebody different from them because of sport, this is going to be the platform to say, look, this is what I had to do back then, and this is how I can carry that into the now so that we can project that into the future. So I love that Coach Arians does a team meeting so that they can talk, address, hear each other's heart, and move on to continue bonding, growing, and creating that brotherhood amongst each other. And it sounds like everybody on the Bucks is on the same page. You've seen nonstop support amongst every player to player, just, on social media as well as Zoom calls. So it's amazing to see. Now, this may have been one of my favorite questions. He was also asked, is there pressure to be a Super Bowl contender this year? Because people are already saying you guys are Super Bowl contenders. And he goes, look, any team that has gone to Super Bowl, whether they won it or lost it, but let's more so talk about the teams that walk away from a Super Bowl, get that ring. Their mindset in the next season isn't we're Super Bowl champions going into that next practice, going into the next game, going into the next season. It's a clean slate. He said, so it's, it's nice. It's cool. It's great to hear the possibilities. He goes, but right now we're not putting ourselves in that category until we get to that practice, get to that game, get halfway through the season, and see that we're carrying ourselves as actual Super Bowl contenders before, slapping the title of it or even putting the pressure on. You can't add that pressure just yet, because even in this day, these guys haven't even really been able to get together one-on-one physically. So until they get that opportunity to start functioning as a real team in a physical setting, he's not putting any pressure on the boys, and he's not taking that pressure on either. He says, look, we got to get to training camp. We got to get to preseason. We have to get to season, and then we'll start talking Super Bowl. So that was cool to hear. As for when the NFL is returning or when the Bucks are returning, he said training camp is set for July 21st. But before July 21st, he is hoping that they can come to a conclusion where they can get the quarterbacks together and do a QB school. He thinks it's very important for everyone to dive into that playbook, to get comfortable, to learn amongst each other. And there's some things that Tom Brady's obviously going to have to change and readjust to, from the style of offense from the Patriots to the style of offense to the Bucks. But he feels like, Tom's already on top of it. Brady mentioned earlier in his press conference call months ago, he is an analytical guy. He's a logistics guy. He's diving into that playbook. So we know that he's already done a lot of his homework to the best of his capacity. Arians was even asked to the fact of, how do you feel about Tom Brady getting some of his teammates up and waking them up at the crack of dawn to go do some workouts and stuff? And he goes, I love it. That's the leadership we hired him for. That's the leadership that you don't have to ask of Tom Brady, that he just steps up and does, and he really enjoys seeing it. So for the QB school, I'm sure Ryan Griffin will learn a lot. Blaine Gabbert will learn a lot. Gabbert brings his own skill set to the team. Griffin brings his own skill set to the team. I know that I was a fan of Gabbert in preseason last year because even though Winston was a mobile guy initially in his career, or not scared to be so mobile, Gabbert is a mobile guy. He's not afraid to tuck that ball under his arm, and run for it, get those extra yards that we need, make those crucial calls in those clutch moments. So, I think he does have something to offer. So it would be great if these guys have an opportunity to do a QB school before training camp. And then if you didn't notice, July 21st is clearly a bit earlier to name training camp than usual, but these guys, of course, can use the extra time, the extra weeks. They're missing out on a lot of opportunity here with quarantine and COVID-19. Coach even said they've missed 400 reps. If you really think about how much that is, that's a lot to be playing catch up on. And then he really feels for the rookies in this instant, because this is usually where they get majority of their reps and their biggest learning strides, and they're missing out on all of that right now. So hopefully those extra weeks help you guys feel a little bit more caught up. Of course, they're never going to feel completely caught up. This is very strange times and a very strange way to go into a preseason as well as a season, but we have faith in the guys. Now, he was also asked about his personnel choices now that he has Gronk on the team, whether it's going to be 12 personnel or 11 personnel. Coach mentioned that he loves running 3 tight ends out there. He'd love to see more of it, and he has faith that he has 3 strong tight ends that he can throw out there and do a lot with. He would also like to see a lot more plays within his wide receivers. He would love to play 4 receivers out on the field as well. So there is going to be a lot of competition, not in terms of who's going to get more of a starting or 1 or 2 role, but more so, when he does throw out those spreads of having 4 receivers on the field, who that 3 and that 4 is going to be. And he feels like he has a lot of faith in the guys learning so much during this, lock away time. And there's going to be really firm competition out there, because if y'all look at this wide receiver roster, it's pretty extensive. So the options are endless, which is amazing. But if the skill set can amount to the endless options, then yeah, we're talking Super Bowl contenders. And this is going to be a great offense to see at play on the field this 2020 season. Now, transitioning from one of my favorite coaches, as I said, Drew Brees made a statement. We discussed this a little bit on Wednesday. He went as far to say his reasoning for not agreeing with kneeling while the national anthem is taking place and for kneeling when at an American flag. Now, you guys heard my thoughts on Wednesday to the fact that I genuinely believe that the person, the leader, the quarterback that we have seen in Drew Brees is a genuine guy. You've never seen anything within his content of character that would make you question what he believes, how he feels, or how he treats other people. And I made that clear on Wednesday. I also made it clear that the unfortunate part of what he initially said is that he was just speaking from one perspective, his. Now, as humans, we have to take a step back. And we have to be honest and realistic to the fact that people are products of their upbringing and their environment. So I don't believe that Brees was trying to be ignorant or naive or look away from the bigger issue at hand here. I just think that he is a product of his upbringing and his environment. He did hear a lot of slack for his comment, as I said he would on Wednesday. I knew the heat was coming, and unfortunately, I think the heat came on a little too heavy and a little too hot because people started questioning his character. People started feeling like, oh, well, if I didn't mention it, sorry, guys. He did obviously put out an apology, not just one on Instagram, but he posted a video last night as well. We'll circle back to that in a moment. But people started saying that the timing of his apology or his apology as a whole was just, to take the heat off of him. And I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with that. Because it was also mentioned that when people make their initial statement about something, you're hearing their heart and you're hearing how they truly feel. So my issue with that is that if people have a limited experience with something and they speak on it in that moment, once they take a step back, once they give themselves an opportunity to educate themselves, to reevaluate, to broaden their perspective, and then they make another statement, who are we to not give them the benefit of the doubt to say, you know what, they took a moment to reevaluate their perspective, to have a slight change of heart. We're not going to say that it went from black to white, but to have a slight change of heart to realize, okay, I have to dig a little deeper on this situation. I have to be a little softer on this situation. I have to be more open-minded on this situation. I think it's crazy and rude and condemning to continue to go after Drew Brees at this point. And you can tell that he was feeling so unsatisfied with his heartfelt apology to have to go back onto social media in the evening time after he released an initial apology by 9 a.m. to have to really try to pour more heart into an apology. And my biggest plea with this situation is that people cannot be so desperate to be heard on a situation that they become deaf to what people are saying or how people are saying, I'm sorry. I was naive. I'm sorry I was ignorant. I'm sorry I was insensitive. Until, on the matter like this, yeah, people deserve second and third chances. I'm sorry, because not only is it already an uncomfortable and sensitive matter, but it's going to take extensive research and education for people to have that aha moment. Not everybody's going to get it on the first try. And if we want to continue to encourage people to see things in a particular light, to come together and to move past their uncomfortable boundaries, we cannot throw more discomfort into the situation or into the matter. So, Drew Brees, I think that your apology was heartfelt. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was well said, your first and your second apology. And for anybody who has an issue with it or cannot accept it, I say get over it, because we aren't, we shouldn't be condemning people. We shouldn't be holding people to such a high standard when we're asking people to educate themselves and learn, because when you are in a learning situation, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get it right the first time. So why would we hold somebody to get it right the first time and not accept it when they come back to the platform and say, you know what, I had to take a step back and I had to readjust my perspective, and this is my heart. Let's not make people feel uncomfortable on an already uncomfortable matter. Let's lead with acceptance. Let's have broader ears than as broad as we are asking others to have, so that everything can start moving forward and continue to move forward in a progressive manner, that it will be inviting to people who are still struggling to even open their perspective, open their hearts, and open their ears. Those are my thoughts on Drew Brees. Now, luckily, I have a little bit of backup because even Charles Barkley this morning says, you guys are being so bitter and so aggressive towards Drew Brees. He said it's too much. And I agree. He's already uncomfortable. Why would we continue to make him so uncomfortable? Like, he felt the need to do 2 apologies, guys. Take a second to let that sink in. And on top of that, he had teammates that came out accepting his apology on social media. I think one of the best ones was Michael Thomas saying, my teammate made a mistake, but I forgive him. And I will do my best to educate him and to continue talking with him, but I forgive him because who am I to condemn him? And for him, he took it a step further to say, as a Christian, I'm not here to judge him. If those are his efforts, thank you. Move on. Now, on top of the matter of everything that's been going on, the NFL players took to a very powerful video, individually recording themselves making a statement in terms of everything that's taking place in the nation right now. And it's very, very well recorded. Of course, what everybody is seeking in this nation right now is just equality and to break and condemn any racism that's taking place in 2020, guys. Well, that video seems to have been very well heard because Roger Goodell took to a statement a little bit ago saying that he acknowledges the mishandling of the NFL when it comes to racism. And he apologized on the behalf of the NFL, saying that, we should have heard players sooner, and he's sorry that that wasn't the case. He even went as far to say that the potential massive loss of money from such a controversial topic was a lot of his hesitation in terms of adjusting or addressing the matter properly. That's a big move. So I appreciate Goodell for coming forward and saying that. I'm sure a lot of players are appreciating that because, in my initial statement at the top of the week, there's nothing worse in this world, guys, regardless of your culture or your background, than feeling unheard, unappreciated, or unaccepted. So there's a lot of great changes that look to be taking place in the NFL. Now, as we switch over to college football for a minute, we have some feathers being ruffled up in Tallahassee at FSU. Now, the head coach at FSU took to making a statement to say, oh yeah, we got our teammates together. We had a meeting. We addressed 3 big topics such as voter registration and what's going on in this country and something else and something else. Well, you shouldn't make such a public statement if there's going to be any holes in your statement because his players chewed him up for it. One of his D linemen took to social media to say that meeting never happened because he also went as far as say that he took each player one-on-one to have a discussion with them to cut any kind of, racism taking place in the country, to make sure that everybody's on the same page of where they're supposed to be, where this country needs to be going, the change that needs to take place, and the roles that people can play in doing so. Yeah, that never happened, apparently. No one-on-ones took place, no conversation in the matter took place, and now his players are upset with him to the point where they're on strike. They said that they will not attend one workout right now until the situation is resolved. And then, in other words, they said until further notice. We don't know what that further notice is just yet, but we know that Marvin Wilson is one angry guy on the FSU football team, and a lot of the guys are backing him at that. And come on, I'm so sad to hear this because it's like, if you guys know me at all, FSU is my school and my heart. My brother played football there, so I am a proud Knoll at heart. I didn't go to FSU. But this sucks. Like, what was the point of lying? Just say we're going to get to it, or we haven't had time to get together yet, or, there's a lot of guys on a football team say we're working down the roster. You could have said anything else but just a blatant lie. So that's unfortunate, and hopefully they can resolve that issue sooner rather than later. As for other schools now returning after COVID-19 and trying to find safety protocols and procedures to adhere to, Notre Dame football will actually return back to football, but not on campus. They're actually going to start off in a hotel. They want to quarantine the guys, make sure everybody is clean, and whoever's not, they want to make sure that they have time to work the virus through their system before everybody starts heading onto campus and interacting amongst other people. Because realistically, we can tell these athletes, hey, you need to continue self-quarantining when you're not at practice or when you're not working out. But they only have so much control, especially depending on who their roommates are or whatever they need to get done. There's still going to be some outside interaction. So I think that's a strong protocol for Notre Dame, and I wish them the best luck with that. Stick with us, guys, as we go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we talk the NBA and their return.
All this time we fought side by side. We trained together. We lost together. And now, you're the only one standing in my way. It's been a while, old friend.
All right, guys, welcome back. So if you caught the hint before the commercial, yes, the NBA is officially back. An official return date, an official plan. NBA is coming back to us in less than 2 months. So they were approved by a 29-1 vote yesterday. They will be returning July 31st in Orlando, Florida, with the 22-team plan that we initially heard a couple days ago. Now, before heading to Orlando, there's a few things that need to take place. Teams must reassemble at their home facilities to start getting their conditioning in, to start working out. We know the facilities opened a couple of weeks ago, but now they're going to start functioning in more of a training camp capacity. Then an official training camp will start as of June 30th, and then teams will fly into Orlando on July 7th so that they can adhere to the 14-day quarantine that most states still have in play. If you travel, you must quarantine for 14 days once you get into that state. So after June 30th training camp, July 7th fly into Orlando, Florida, 14 days of quarantine. I don't know. We haven't heard from any sources yet if that still means conditioning, workouts, practices. I'm guessing that it does, as long as the testing that Adam Silver wants to take place is in place. If not, then of course the guys are just going to stick to quarantining to make sure everybody is safe and secure to go. Now, unfortunately, the exciting news of the NBA being back, geez, I still have football in the brain, is going to be overshadowed for a minute on the same issue that most professional leagues are having. Salary, money. How much money are these guys going to make? They've lost out on a lot of time, and no team is going to be able to pick up where they left off in a season and completely finish it off. As you see, most people are getting closer to a playoff situation so that they can finish off there. They have to come to a conversation where they talk pay cut negotiations to see where these players lie in terms of how much they're willing to cut back on. Right now, player paychecks are being withheld by 25%, so we have to see if the guys will kick it up a little bit further so that the revenue already lost in terms of the revenue that will be lost can kind of balance itself out. When we hear more, you guys will hear more. Hopefully, it doesn't kick up as much drama and pushback as the MLB, but, you know, I cannot voice this enough. I do respect the fact that these are these guys' jobs. They put themselves in positions to live a particular lifestyle. So, yeah, their bills need to get paid as well, and they don't want to get in any holes just because of COVID-19. Now, in further exciting return to play news, the NHL announced their transition to phase 2 of return to play. The guys will be able to return to the facilities Monday, June 8th. As long as, you know, they adhere to all state regulations in terms of returning back during COVID-19, but it looks like everybody is good to go, return to the facilities on Monday. They will be doing individual training, which means small groups on and off the ice, no more than 6 guys, which works out totally fine because in a functional game or functional training game prep, you have your shift line of 3 guys, your defensive line of 2 guys, and then your goalie in the net. That's 6 guys. So now they can start operating, probably picking up with the last couple of shifts of the guys that they played with before COVID-19. In my book, that'd be the smartest thing to do. Start rebuilding that chemistry, start, you know, feeling guys out again. I know in terms of the Tampa Bay Lightning, we had just added in 3 new guys to the system, and, you know, 2 defensive guys or 1 defensive guys, 2 forwards. So, you know, they have an opportunity here to start building that chemistry a lot more. They started to kind of feel each other out more, and the pieces started to fall together right before COVID. That's the unfortunate part. So hopefully, they'll be able to kind of pick up where they left off and build off of that. I definitely look forward to see, what shift lines they come up with as they start getting closer to playoffs. And because of where they fell in seeding, they were number 4. They will actually start off their playoffs with a bye week. So I know Killorn wasn't too on board with that because he felt like some people would get an advantage kind of jumping in a week ahead. In the same sense, as long as they're allowed to practice, then it could be an upper hand because 1, we could be getting our captain back, Steven Stamkos, and 2, the guys that we just added to the team, we can get some extra time with them building that chemistry, in those shift lines and it displaying so that we can actually be real playoff contenders. Those are my hopes. Now, phase 2 is not a substitute for training camp. So even though the guys will be returning to the facilities on Monday, working out together, yada, 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 they will also still have a training camp before they head off to one of the two cities to do the playoff system that they are now doing. Stanley Cup Playoffs will be best of 7 following the qualifying rounds. Qualifying rounds will be best of 5 series. Playoffs will be reseeded after each round, not bracketed this time. That will be the difference. And then, unfortunately, a Penguins player did test positive for COVID-19, but they are quarantining him and not releasing his name because it's nobody's business. As long as he survives this, then we wish him the best of health. And then to add to a moving week, the NHL within the last hour just released their own video standing against and condemning racism in our country. And it was a beautiful video. The bottom line of it was you don't have to look like George Floyd to know that what happened to him was wrong. You saw the goalie from the New York Rangers on there. You saw Piquet Subban on there. You saw Wayne Simmons on there. You saw so many different players. Both of the Hughes brothers, Quinn and Jack. Jack's a rookie in the league this year. So that was fantastic for them to release that. A lot of people are coming out and just showing so much love and so much support. And, I could use the word 1,000 times, but I can't think of anything else to say other than how moving this all genuinely is. So stick with us, guys, as we go to one more commercial break, and then we come back with MLB.
We wanted to move back home to be closer to his family. We decided to go with pods because things were stressful enough.
We weren't sure how long we were going to need storage for, so we needed something that was flexible, and then they can deliver the container to wherever we move to.
We haven't found the perfect house yet, but we're still looking.
All right, guys, welcome back. So if I haven't said it enough, it seems like the MLB might be a lost cause. Players and owners are still unable to see eye to eye. Players are standing firm resoundingly on rejecting the 114-game return plan. June was supposed to be the start of their training camp like next week, and July 4th or around there, so between the 4th and the 6th, was supposed to be their opening day date. Well, no further information has come out on their opening day date, and I doubt they're going to rush it with everything they have going on and the fact that everybody's coming off of such lukewarm bodies. So it looks like baseball is either going to get pushed down into August, or we may not be seeing any baseball. We haven't heard of any player coming forward saying that they are okay to move forward with the plans that have been proposed to them thus far. And it sounds like as a whole, most of these guys are just not having it. We talked about the fact that owners proposed a 50-50 revenue split. They completely rejected that. The last thing I heard, according to resources, was potentially, and this is a big capital potentially, 70-30 split. And the players are still not having that as well. Now they're saying that, look, you cut minor league players, a majority of them. You're still continuing to cut minor league players. And aside from the fact that some of these guys, more importantly, David Price, is coming out of pocket to protect those guys that are part of his team or 40-man roster of the minor league, where is the rest of the money opportunity here? And why are we still looking at taking a loss if you guys are making these cuts, not only on staff, but in the minor league? And why do we still have to consider taking a pay cut? I understand. I get it. It's their job. If they're anything like my mom, who budgets year by year and month by month, so she has a clear view of what's going on down the line, it's frustrating when any kind of wrench is thrown into those plans. Again, these guys, once they make a certain amount of money, once they sign certain contracts, once they think that they have a clear vision of the lifestyle they can attain, they start leading those lifestyles. So their bills are going to be outrageously high. The amount of money that they have to come up with to continue living that lifestyle is going to be quite high. So I can understand to an extent the pushback on any kind of pay cut, but where they have to start getting real is it's June. Baseball postseason would be shortly down the line. So now we're trying to either crank out a whole bunch of games, which they want to continue to get paid for, but realistically, we're not going to have an opportunity to do all those games without completely jumping in to the 2020 and 2021 season. So if you're thinking of a pay by game basis, you're going to have to take some kind of pay cut. And if the 70-30 is a real proposal that took place, that might be the most idyllic one to hop on board with so they can get things going. Because at this point, for them to be one of the first teams to have a plan, they're behind the eight ball because NBA is returning. NHL's got to move on. We've got training dates out there for the NFL, and the National Women's Soccer League have their first game in just 2 weeks. So it's like, you guys got to figure something out because this potential season you're still hoping to have is really losing out here. So hopefully next week we'll have some optimistic and positive news in terms of the MLB. And I will be coming back here saying scratch the MLB because they just keep having the same round and round conversations and it's going nowhere. But we'll see what takes place this weekend. I surely do hope everybody has an amazing weekend, a beautiful weekend. If you have the opportunity to, since we're moving into phase 2 of COVID-19 protocols, get together with your loved ones, get together with your friends, show the people that you care about most how much you care about them. Don't take another day for granted because it shouldn't take the most epic moments in the world or history to make you reevaluate or have gratitude in your heart or an appreciation for what you have on a day-to-day basis. I know I will be sure to love on my best friends and my friends and their extended friends and to love on my family and my extended family. I hope that you guys do the same. And if nothing else, my message remains the same. Stay safe. Stay sane, stay kind, stay compassionate, and I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. I'll catch you Monday right here at 8 p.m.